Very good morning. And in fact, now it is already afternoon. Good afternoon to you all. We are very excited that we had a session earlier in the morning where Prime Minister addressed, and our Secretary Higher Education, Sri Sanjay Murthy, has some techno problems actually, so he is about to join. Meanwhile, as scheduled, we will start off with the program today of the first parallel session, where we have Sri Sanjay Murthy and Sri Rajaraman, the two secretaries of Higher Education and Department of Telecom, will initially address. They are the chair and co-chair for this session. Followed by that, we have three panelists, Dr. Swati Piramal, Vice Chairperson Piramal Group, Professor Kamakoti, Director of IIT Madras, Professor Jagdish Kumar, Chairman UGC, will speak for about 10 minutes each as panelists. Followed by that, we have a very eminent list of experts drawn from industry, TCS, then upgrad on one side, and on the other side, we also have vice chancellors from two of the open universities and distance education providers. We have technical university vice chancellor, we have private university vice chancellor, we have deemed university. We have got roped in all kind of people who will be able to give us inputs for taking forward. So we will not wait for secretary to join because he may take some more time because there is some technical hitch over there. So we will start the session with the co-chair, Sri Rajaraman, who is already joined, to start with his presentation and his perception about what digital university is all about and how do we take it forward in this particular session. Over to you, Sir Sri Rajaraman.
Thank you, Dr. Sastra. I hope you can hear me. Am I audible?
Yes, you are very much audible.
Yes.
And presentation is also visible.
Yes. Thank you, and good afternoon to all of you. I think it's my pleasure to be part of this great discussion panel where we have great, many experts from the education sector and from the other sectors as well. So, they always say the pipe comes first and then the water. So I think, so let me talk about the pipe, the digital connectivity first. And then I think I will let all the experts speak about the content. I think that is going to drive the digital university. So I will go to the. It's my duty to make a small brief about the announcements which the Honorable Finance Minister had made as part of the budget for 2023 on the digital connectivity. So she had announced that the 5G spectrum auctions and the 5G rollout would happen in 2022. This promises the next wave of bandwidth improvements, and lower latency connectivity, enabling a whole host of use cases. She also announced the launch of a research and development fund for developing appropriate technology for the rural and remote areas. Setting apart 5% of the Universal Services Obligation Fund. So that would make available nearly about some 400 to 450 crores on an annual basis for R&D in telecom equipment and consumer equipment as well. So we also are proposing to have a design-led manufacturing scheme to boost telecom equipment manufacturing. And this would therefore enable cheaper equipment, because essentially when we are talking about the digital university, connectivity is the heart of all this, because essentially we must have ubiquitous connectivity reaching out to all the rural and urban areas as well. So in India, the broadband penetration is about, say, at a household level, roughly about 8%. So we need to go much higher, and this would require a large amount of work in terms of making it affordable and also accessible to the most deserving segments of our society. So therefore, we believe that the local manufacturing scheme and the R&D scheme both put together would make equipment cheaper and also more effective in enabling this connectivity. The Honorable Prime Minister also has announced that the BharatNet would eventually cover 6 lakh villages. So I think currently the work is going on in about nearly 2.5 lakh gram panchayats. So the balance 3.5 lakh villages would also get connected from the GPs as well. We have also raised the funding for CDOT from about 325 to about 500 crores. That promises that more indigenous equipment would be designed. And BSNL would receive a financing about 44,000 crores. These are some of the broad announcements that have been made in the budget. Next. So let me now tell about what is available in the. I mean, if you look at the entire country, I mean, as a part of the overall broadband connectivity, enabling students from all sections of society to join into the digital bandwagon to have online learning at the lowest possible cost. So BharatNet currently is in the process of connecting about 2.64 lakh gram panchayats on optical fiber. It's being funded by the Universal Services Obligation Fund and it's being implemented by the Bharat Broadband Network Limited. The mission is actually to provide high-speed broadband to rural India, and the outcomes expected are digital, financial, economic, and social inclusion. So we have about 171,000 panchayats already ready, service ready, in the sense that people can connect, I mean, I think, and then make use of these services. And we have about 53,000 hotspots across the country also ready for connecting by any of these users. We also have in the process of rolling out a PPP scheme with viability gap funding for enabling this rollout to the 6 lakh villages as announced by the Honorable Prime Minister. Now, if you look at the mode of connectivity, I think we have both dark fiber as well as bandwidth available in all these GPs. So it is up to, I mean, we have also a VSAT based connectivity in remote areas, because essentially fiber cannot reach there, especially the mountainous and other border areas and so on and so forth. Connectivity is available on an open access and non-discriminatory basis, and extra fiber and bandwidth can be taken from any other TSP. So it's basically an open system to which anybody can connect. So we have created an associates forum. About 64 internet service providers have connected to our network, and more are in the process. So, and we expect that all these ISPs, the virtual network operators, will also reach out fiber to home and fiber to business, etc., in rural areas as well. Next. Now, we have currently an ongoing engagement with all the ministries to enable rural education institutions to get lease lines, so we can provide, BharatNet can provide the connectivity. Similarly, connectivity to schools, I think, is also in the process. Digital libraries is also in our radar, I think, wherever they are being set up. Krishi Vigyan Kendras, Agri Extension Research Centers are also points of presence as far as we are concerned. Rural polytechnics and industrial training institutes also would be provided connectivity. And finally, the skill development and entrepreneurship centers would also be provided connectivity along with Anganwadis, etc., where required. Now, the connectivity can be provided through to the desired extent, in terms of the necessity, in terms of bandwidth. So, 500 Mbps connectivity should be good enough for colleges, where maybe 1 Gbps or more may be required for universities and large institutions. Individual connections can be provided at fiber to home at the with a speed of about 50 Mbps. 64 BBNL associates are actively providing these in rural areas. We'll have more joining soon. Fiber tariffs range from 199 to 139. While I say this, there are also telecom service providers and internet service providers who are also licensees of the Department of Telecommunication, who are also rolling out these services in parallel. So we have a whole host of other, other than BharatNet, we have also other service providers who are providing this connectivity. So between all of these, we also have public sector undertakings like RailTel, PGC, Power Grid Telecom Corporation, and so on and so forth. A large number of other PSUs and DISCOM who have fiber, who are also in the process of providing these connectivity. So we, to summarize, what I would like to say is that we need also work on devices, because essentially while we provide the pipe, the effective utilization by students would require them to acquire tablets or laptops or other devices which can enable learning. So the number of state governments have launched programs and schemes to actually provide them to students, especially school students and students in higher education institutions. So we need to probably support and accelerate this process. CSR support also could certainly accelerate this process. Similarly, I think we could also think of digital libraries in each Gram Panchayat, where community learning can happen. It may not be necessarily on a 1:1 basis. It's tabs and other equipment provided to users at the village level on a common use basis also could actually accelerate the process of access to digital university. Next. So I will therefore conclude that the architecture that we have would enable learning at various levels by various segments of society for both college related learning or certification related learning, or perhaps even continuing education, required for farmers, for rural artisans, and so on and so forth. So we believe that the BharatNet can act as a very vibrant hub. We look forward to very active collaboration with the AICTE, the UGC, and other higher education institutions and the state governments to enable, maximize the utilization of this these pipes to enable onboard millions of students onto this digital university, which has been launched by the government. So we in the Department of Telecommunication and the Bharat Broadband Limited would be very happy to reach out to all of you and then work and connect with you. Thank you. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Sri Rangarajan ji. Now we have with us Sri Sanjay Murthy ji, Secretary Higher Education, the chair for this particular panel discussion. May I request Sri Sanjay Murthy ji to give words of what we want to do and what we need to do in a short time. Sir, it is not audible.
Hello. Can you hear us?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. No, okay. Sorry, I think we are having some technical issue here, shifting from the other system to this one. So excuse us for that. But anyway, thank you so much for initiating the discussion, Rajaraman. I think with the context of what connectivity the government proposes to provide in the remote corners of the country lays the context of today's discussion. While we in the ministry are looking at a GER of around 27% in the higher education institutions, we aim to ensure that we reach a target of 50% as initiated in the national education policy in another 15 years of time. So this essentially means that we will have an additional 10 million students in the higher education system, to which we need to provide the requisite facilities of infrastructure for enabling them to have a proper learning. Now, as an example, the number of institutions which are located in these remote areas, as a statistics, more than 60% of these institutions, numbering 25,000 of them, are having an enrollment of less than 500 students. And they are all situated in these remote areas, wherein the actual faculty which is required to disseminate this knowledge may not be there in totality. So therefore, they are constrained with this problem of having limited disciplinaries enabling or reaching out to those students. Now, it is very important that we address this issue right up front in the context of the GER of the tribal students itself. Their GER, unfortunately, is much below the national average, more than 10 percentage points below that. So how do we ensure that this segment of population, along with our large women population, including the SEDGs, are provided with this quality education, which is reachable to all, is something that this session needs to deliberate upon. And the Honorable Prime Minister in the opening session itself had alluded to this and the challenge that we have to meet in today's context. While the regulations have been amended to ensure that we provide greater digital access to the students through content, etc., through two key regulations that have been taken. One is the academic bank of credits, as well as the multiple disciplinary entry, multiple exit type of a scenario. These pose another challenge, that what is the content that will be available to the students who want to take these type of facilities. It is also noted that the industry is closely working with the academia to see that the type of courses or curriculum that the students take meets their requirements. So we are moving ahead to a situation where this entire academic concept of a degree is changing slowly or surely towards what industry focuses on and what specializations these courses are able to provide. Now, it is in this context that this digital university will be addressing most of the critical issues that we are facing and hope to address through this. It is this type of a curriculum which will be able to reach out to the students who are left out. We understand that there is another need to ensure that there is a handholding on this entire digital holding concept for students who are situated at that locations. Models have already been worked out wherein we do have the support centers, but how could this be consolidated further to ensure that we reach to these segments of population in a meaningful way? Now, while having talked about the need to roll out at the curriculum and the teaching level itself, there is another segment of population which needs continuous reskilling and continuous lifelong skilling in their trajectory, in their life path. And I think this digital university will also provide access to that type of collaborative effort. And more importantly, while we have had this foundation of digital learning through NPTEL and such other initiatives like SWAYAM and the MOOCs courses that are there, I think we are going forward looking at a position wherein we see technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence being deployed in such type of a portal to see that the learning content is adaptive to the needs of the learner while he goes along his education path. Now, if these are the type of things that we are able to collaborate with the academic institutions to provide, both the content as well as the assessment part of it, I think will take a leapfrog change in the type of service that the learner himself will experience. I look forward to the discussions today to see that these critical aspects from the eminent speakers who are going to speak today, to see that we have a firm roadmap towards, with the borderline which is based in or anchored in the realization that we will do a collaborative effort, modify our regulations to ensure that everyone is a key participant to this, to ensure that the digital university is able to provide the best of content to our students at large. I thank you all for joining in today and look forward eagerly to your contributions to the deliberations today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sri Sanjay Murthy ji, for that elaboration on what Prime Minister had spoken in the morning about empowering youth, empowering nation through universalization of quality education, be it in terms of skill development, innovation, inclusive integration, as well as how we can use animation, gaming, etc., AR, VR for the better quality education to be imparted, where edutech partners can play a big role. Similarly, how AI-based personalized learning can take place, all of that which Prime Minister said. Apart from that, the most important part which he said is Lagu Kaise Kare. That is very important. We have got the budgetary provision, but how do we really make it happen? What are the challenges? If there are some more things to be done, next year budget, we will be able to do that as well. So Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Prayas is what all of that what he said. And I would now like to start a panel discussion where we have three eminent panelists, Dr. Swati Piramal, Vice Chairperson of the Piramal Group. They have their Piramal Foundation and a lot of work they are doing in the rural sector, especially in Rajasthan and some of the northern states and many other states in India. So how their experience is going to be useful, she will be sharing with us. We have the second panelist, Professor V. Kamakoti, Director of IIT Madras. We are all aware that entire NPTEL program was driven by IIT Madras. And today, the SWAYAM 2.0 version is also being driven by IIT Madras. So the experience of the IIT Madras in terms of NPTEL and SWAYAM education, as well as some of the courses which they have already started in online degree mode. He will be sharing some of the examples for how digital university has to play a role. And finally, Professor M. Jagdish Kumar, who is the chairman of University Grants Commission, and a lot of expectations about what Secretary already said about regulation. How do we change the regulation to empower in terms of collaboration with both private and government sector is what is required to be done. He will throw light upon not only this, but how enablement is required. In the beginning, Sri Rajaraman also talked about how government infrastructure is constantly developing in a manner that we will have enough bandwidth at all nooks and corners of the country, all villages. but still there are problems of devices. Some ideas on that he will throw light upon. So I think the UGC has already done one important thing, that 40% of the credits are allowed by the colleges and universities of their curriculum through the what we call the Swayam or any other MOOC platform, which is also empowering. So with this and the challenges which are already there, I think I will not brief upon that, whether it is making the world-class higher education in terms of infrastructure, in terms of identifying what type of programs, the mode of delivery, the formation, what is the nature of ICT, the curriculum, content generation and driving it. Not only, by the way, today is a Matru Bhasha Divas, International Mother Tongue Day, and therefore how education can also be imparted in mother tongue, in Indian languages. Identifying hub and spoke model, regulations, employability, all of those things will be discussed by not only 3 panelists, but we have a lineup of 9 experts who will pitch in and give their point of view, and we will consolidate that and then present it in the afternoon. With this, may I now invite Dr. Swati Piramal to present her presentation to the public. Presentation is visible.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm just coming on. Just give me a moment. Share screen. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, now we are able to hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir? Yes, thank you. So thank you for inviting me to this prestigious panel. I was so inspired by Prime Minister's presentation this morning and really ready to work for his dreams and ideas. I served on the Harvard Board of Overseers some 15 years ago when we launched edX and HarvardX. Enrollment was an outstanding success, with nearly 1 lakh students from India in the first course. HarvardX at business school was also very successful. However, at that time, though enrollment was very high, there was a huge drop in the third or fourth session, and very few students completed the course. At that time, also, there was one factoid which was very interesting, that Indians were the second highest users after the US of edX. So they are really, wanting to learn, and they were really very big part of its success. The pandemic has shown us that student learning online is far from adequate. So the solution must be unique for our country. We know many girl children who have actually dropped out of school, even though they had access to online education. So I want to speak on behalf of the Piramal Foundation, which is a philanthropic foundation. And we have touched the lives of 100 million people across 27 states. Out of that, 87 million are students, 2,000 nation builders. We have young people who go out and train. And we work in 115 aspirational districts and 50 tribal health collaboratives and the Piramal University. So in that, we have looked at and trained 6 lakh teachers, more than 1 lakh of learning facilitators, and 20 lakh students and adolescent girls. And we have used digital literacy for government offices and content creation for Diksha and courses to improve student learning. So I'm learning from that, I have gathered these 6 things that we need to do for digital university. Multilingual, accessible learning management system, phygital learning, enable adoption, retention, and completion, create engaging, immersive experiences, and link peer learners to create strong learning communication, improve the quality of instruction on digital platforms. So my first example is for this young girl who wants multilingual, accessible learning management system. It was mentioned that it has to be in the Rashtra Bhasha because many children are intimidated by learning in English. And so this website application ensuring availability of videos or inbuilt disabled friendly, especially for disabled children, would be really important. You know, it is very good to have a pipe. It is very good to have the best content. It is very good to have the best tablets. But I think there's something missing, and that is the change management piece. And that is done by a phygital learning experience. And by that, I mean that one person has a class every fortnight in physical, whereas it complements the online learning module. And leveraging capacity in one government school in every cluster to set up learning labs for the digital university. So building this collaborative process with hot seats at block and district level. Without that physical action, I think we will not succeed. Enable adoption, retention, and completion of courses. As we saw in Harvard, only 16% people were there in the fourth session, and many didn't even complete it. So we have to make our learning modules shorter. We have to use e-Mitra to facilitate onboarding, and we have to have call center and chatbot support to provide 24/7 minimum wait time to help overcome teething issues. In this suggested examples to create strong learning communities, link groups to of 3 out of 5 local co-located learners to enable peer learning communities and equal weightage to academic assessment. Creating an immersive learning experience, feedback from a virtual contact center, and promoting competition spirit by way of weekly and monthly contests. Weekly scheduled online instructor. So as you see, I'm really talking about change management, which really makes this successful. Instruction of improving the quality is what Prime Minister mentioned. How can we be world class? And even the instructors need to have training in online learning. And I think the digital university must provide that. I cannot emphasize how important digital university will be in healthcare to train the ASHA workers, to train people for adult education, reskilling whatever they're doing. So it is not only children, but I think adults will also need to benefit. And the only way we can do it is with change management and to involve people on the ground. Piramal Education University does that, people on the ground. We have nearly 5,000 young people who do this work. And I think it has been very successful in what it does and working with Niti Aayog, working with the government and working to scale and having experience in the rural areas where it is needed most. Finally, I'd just like to end by using a quote from Mirza Ghalib. हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी है कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले. हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी है कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले. बहुत निकले मेरे अरमां, बहुत निकले मेरे अरमां, लेकिन फिर भी कम निकले. So that is what I feel कि हम लोग को दम लगा के ये digital university करना है to have the aspirations of so many millions of people. It's a mind-boggling opportunity. And these young girls, for them, it will really change their lives. And I really look forward to implementing it and sharing with all of you this dream which we will fulfill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Swati, for that wonderful expression of your support for the entire initiative which the Honorable Prime Minister has been often talking about, digital education, reaching the unreached and so on. So now may I request Professor Kamakoti, Director of IIT Madras, to make his presentation, and may I request Swati ji to unshare so that he will be able to share.
Yeah. Am I audible, sir?
You are audible. You are audible, Professor.
Yeah, I'll be sharing. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity. So in the 10 minutes allotted to me, I'll give some ideas about it, a proposal of a digital university based on the experience that we had over the last 15 years in running the NPTEL and now the SWAYAM platform. Next slide. So if you look at the higher education landscape, this is the the number of students at different layers in the school, and we see that it's a very steep pyramid. And even at the UG stage, it is now more than 60 to 70% on the BSc, BA, BCom, with a minimal population coming to the engineering education, and some population in the BBA and BCA. So this is based on the AISHE and UDIAC survey that has happened in 2019-20. So the issues, as we see, are there is an extreme competition for top institutions, and when we go to quality private institutions, there are higher costs involved, and there is a low employability and a low GER, and these are the major issues, and that is leading us to reimagine a new bachelor's degree, which is highly employment oriented, which is high quality, and it should also be large at a large scale. And that is where the digital university fits in. Next. So if you look at some of the digital education landscape in our country, SWAYAM is a platform that IIT Madras is very deeply involved. We have nearly 1,000 courses every semester from 100 plus organizations. But as the Harvard X statistics that was presented by Ms. Swati, we also see 25 lakh plus enroll, out of which 3.5 lakh plus write the in-person examination, and only 2 lakh plus do a credit transfer into degree programs. So we see a steep drop from the number of people who enroll to the number of people who finally write the exam. And the issues, and on the other side, we also have the online UG degree. We have a large scale IIT Madras BSc in programming and data science, where we have around 12,000 plus students in the first year currently. And there are also a lot of smaller scale initiatives by few universities through the UGC's online degree regulations and other means. Now, the issues here are that many of the top institutions are still thinking about offering online UG degrees. And many of the barriers that we have seen is the access barriers for learners, the availability of devices, the availability of the pipe, which DOT Secretary mentioned at this point. So the thing is that we need to have a born digital education ecosystem, which is modern and welcoming. We also have many private portals, but then there is a need to establish a credit equivalency. And some of these courses are very expensive, and many of them do not target UG. And I think UG is the real audience that we need to target. Next. So this is a proposal of a digital university ecosystem. We should have a digital university system which should be established. The proposal is it should be established by Act of Parliament, and it should be fully independent. And has two different functions. One is a regulatory function. It should have the power to recommend deemed to be university status for consortiums that would be part of this DUSIS. And on the academic side, it should ensure foundation plus skills plus specialization. It should ensure quality there, and multiple entry exit options, which are very important today, especially with the academic credit bank that the NEP has proposed. And it should be highly job oriented. It is as per the vision of the national education policy. So two examples I could give you on the left hand side. The NPTEL can itself become a digital university, because today we have multiple institutions which are participating in offering these programs, and this could be formalized. The IIT Madras online degree program is also another example where it can fit into a digital university system framework. So many such consortia can be formed, and more institutes can be roped in to form this digital university ecosystem. Next. From the DUS's point of view, what we feel that there could be 6 different functionalities. First is admission, which is today it is not based on a when we move on to the online degree, it is not based on a competitive examination like JEE, but it is based on a qualification, a qualifying examination. So this will be based on a qualification process, and this can be much more global. The second important thing that users can do is about the publicity, which is very important here. We promote among stakeholders, basically the learners, teachers, colleges, universities, institutes, industry, digital and print media. Then very importantly comes the learning management system, which needs to be fully featured, and especially the LTI, which is the learning tool interoperability, also becomes extremely important here. And we should produce a LMS that is highly scalable on cloud. The fourth important thing is the customer support. We should have proper mechanisms for email, phone, messaging apps, etc. We should be highly service oriented. And then 5, exams. In-person exams in centers across country, which should be rigorous and proctored and auto-graded and manual evaluation, both can be in place. And the 6th important aspect is administration and student workflow, which should be modern, digital and data driven. So, so the DUCs can champion online offerings, and in some sense, it should be a university as a service. So for institutions and consortia, there should be a process by which they are easily onboarded onto this DUCs, and they just focus only on the content, and all other operations should be taken care by this framework. So this makes any consortia to quickly onboard themselves as a digital university and start start performing, start awarding degrees, start spawning courses, etc. But at the same time, in a very quick fashion, and there'll be also some uniformity.
क्या हुआ फिर? So audio is lost. Professor Kamakoti.
Problem there.
I think the connectivity itself is not there. Even video is not there. I think we'll move on, because there will be an opportunity to again intervene and speak later. So thank you, Professor Kamakoti. Now may I request Professor Jagdish Kumar, Chairman UGC, to tell us about how he looks at the digital university as a possibility within this next 1 year.
Thank you, Anilji. Could we remove the screen share there? The host can remove that. While we are discussing some great ideas about the digital university, Sanjayji, would you like to say something?
No, I'm
asking me
just
to
saying.
Screen share को remove करने के लिए बता रहे होंगे. It's already
Yes.
done. So, but I think you have to be a little louder, sir. Jagdish ji, because of your mask, probably audibility is a little louder, please, sir.
Yeah. Now, while we are discussing great ideas about establishing the digital university, I know everybody will be looking at the regulator. Would be the role of the regulator here. Having been part of the IIT system for several decades and having been part of the university system at JNU, I'm a firm believer now at UGC that any regulations that we will come up should enhance the growth of the education sector in our country. It should not curtail its growth. Of course, we need to build in appropriate accountability clauses so that quality education is provided to all the stakeholders. But however, I would like to begin with what the Honorable Prime Minister said about unlimited seats, because today, unfortunately, because of the way we select our students through elimination, because of the limited seats available in the physical educational institutes, we are, we have, the students have only limited options, curtailed options. And that's the reason why I think the digital university will play a major role here. And also because the digital technologies have become part of our life, it has become a necessity for us to reimagine the teaching learning processes, the entire governance systems in the universities and the goals of the higher education, and how the future universities would be perceived by the industry, by the society in general. It is well known that the current model of the universities are very rigid. They do not pay a very serious attention to the diversity of the cognitive abilities of the students, the financial abilities, the needs and interests of the students. And also because today there are many students who would like to acquire new skills while they are on the job. If they have to be relevant to their jobs, they need to acquire new skills. And a university like Digital University will provide the opportunity for them to be relevant in their job roles. And that's the reason why I think time has come for us to see how universities can remain relevant in the lives of the students by recalibrating their own functioning so that their functioning resonates with the aspirations of the students. And today we can very proudly say that with the launching of the Digital India campaign, India is well ahead in terms of providing the public digital infrastructure in many sectors such as the welfare, health, finance sectors. So therefore, education is a natural addition to these digital infrastructure. And I'm sure when the digital university is established, it will definitely enhance the ease of learning, the ease of providing education students without really differentiating between whether they are from the rural background, whether they are from the urban background, or from whichever economic strata from which they come from. And since the digital university is going to be a hub and spoke, many high quality educational institutes such as NITs and other central universities and other outstanding even autonomous colleges can be part of this digital university as the spokes. And when we are talking about the digital university, we also need to see the kind of regulatory framework that we are bringing in from the UGC point of view. We have already introduced the academic bank of credits, and as the chairman said, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe said, we have increased the number of credits that students can take from the digital platforms from 20% to 40%. And we, in the next month, we are going to announce the modified regulatory framework for the online and the ODL education that the universities are providing. And this is where I think the regulatory body will play a crucial role. I would like to inform you what are the new things that are going to come as part of this improved regulatory framework for the online education. For example, we are going to have a category of institutes which do not have to take any approval from the UGC if they have to offer the online degrees and online courses. All that they need to fulfill is that they need to be in the top 100 NIRF rankings at least twice during the preceding 3 cycles of NIRF ranking, or they should have a minimum of 3.26 and NAC grading. These are some of the things that are required to make sure that high quality education is provided, and that is possible only when the university or the higher educational institute is highly rated. One of the reforms that we are going to bring in is that today, because we admit the students through elimination, we also specify certain minimum percentage that they have to get in their qualifying exam. As a result, this is eliminating a lot of students from acquiring high quality education. So one of the reforms that we are going to bring in as part of the online degree programs, and also which will help the digital university, is that anybody who passes the +2 examination or 12th standard examination should be able to join in any of the degree programs that the digital university or the higher educational institutes will offer. And we hope that this will provide great opportunities for students across the board. You know, I come from a village background. I know often that there are extremely talented students, but for various reasons, they might not have performed very well in their 10th class or in their +2 examinations. But later, they can really perform well if opportunities are provided. So this is one of the important modifications that we are going to make in the regulatory framework. Earlier, we had a limit of only 13 courses, online degree courses, that a university can offer. Now, for all these entitled higher educational institutes, we are going to remove that upper cap. You can offer any number of high quality online degree programs once you are part of this entitled category. And other universities, of course, they can apply to UGC, and once they satisfy, once the UGC is satisfied that high quality education can be provided by these universities, they will be given the approval. The another important reform that we are going to bring in is that there is no need. Earlier, we used to say that if you want to offer an online degree, you should have offered this online degree in the physical mode in the university. But we are saying there are many areas where you may not be offering in the physical mode a degree program, but you may have expertise by collaborating with top class educational institutes within India and outside India. Therefore, you will be permitted to offer degree programs at the UG and PG levels, although they are not offered in the physical mode. So there are many more such opportunities that will be created for offering the online degree programs. But however, let me also very briefly highlight some of the concerns that people are raising about the online degree programs and the digital education in general. We need to see the trends, how the hiring is taking place across the industry. Today, the trends show that the hiring is more skill-based hiring rather than degree-based hiring. So the digital university will provide an opportunity to customize and personalize the education for the students so that they acquire the skills that are required for the industry. So this is something that we need to keep in our mind. And there are some people who are saying that there will be job losses for the teachers if the digital education becomes a popular mode of imparting higher education. You know, in a large country like ours, the establishment of the physical universities, physical colleges will continue to happen. There is absolutely no truth in saying that if the digital university comes, there will be job losses for the teachers. And then, there are others who say that how do you evaluate these students, because they are distributed geographically. But there is enough technology available to us which can provide opportunities to evaluate the students in a continuous manner using either proctored way, or the students can come to designated centers where these evaluations can take place. One important reform that we are going to announce when the regulatory framework is going to be put for public debate next month is the ability of the higher educational institutes to collaborate with the ed tech companies in our country. Let me tell you this, that India is ahead of the curve in terms of the educational technology. There is enormous talent within our own country, either in terms of established ed tech companies or startup companies that are coming up. There is no need for the universities to establish these technology platforms, and then it is going to be a duplication of the efforts. So as part of the regulatory evolution that regulatory reforms that we are bringing in, universities will be in a position to have collaborations with the edtech companies and make use of their cloud platforms, their technological facilities that they have in terms of the animation, visual effects, gaming, and comics, and all kinds of facilities that are available with these tech companies can be made use by the educational institutes to create high quality digital content to enable these students to become outstanding learners and contribute to the economic growth of our country. I see the establishment of the digital university as a great opportunity for India, not only to reach out to every student across the length and breadth of our country. I think it will give us an opportunity to become a leading educational provider across the world. I look forward to working for the establishment of the digital university, and as a regulator, UGC will play a critical role to make sure that the digital education is widely spread across the country. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Jagdish Kumar, for giving elaborate idea about not only ODL online education, the possibility of digital university, the support which is going to come from UGC. This is all good for all of us who are listening to you today. And let us go ahead now with several experts who have joined us today on this particular platform. Let me start inviting one by one Dr. E. Vayunandan. He is the Vice Chancellor of Yashwantrao Chauhan Open University in Nasik in Maharashtra. He has an experience of ODL education and how digital university can shape in the future. Let him comment on that. Sri Vayunandan, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm sorry that I joined late because of some miscommunication. I'm really sorry. Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhaji and Professor Jagdish Kumar and all the eminent persons. Namaskar from Nasik, Yashwantrao Chauhan, Maharashtra Open University. Sir, briefly I will tell about our university so that you have some idea. Sir, ours is a Open University, state Open University, and we have about enrollment of 7 lakh students every year. And during the pandemic, I think we started online counseling classes. To start with, we experimented with some study centers, but lately it's a record time, we organized about 9,000 counseling classes on online. And later, the government decided not to have physical examination for main examination. So the first event we conducted 1 lakh students online proctored, and it was 100% successful. Where because the first batch was only for final year students, and the second batch was for all entire 3-year students. That was 5,75,000 students were conducted online examination. It was 100% successful. So rightly said by Prime Minister that our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, that convert this crisis into opportunities. So we tried our best to convert this opportunity, and we have a good opportunities which we provide. We got it, and that is where we are looking at how best we go on online because of this experience. And in the last budget, the government of India and even the Maharashtra state is, and they announced that they want to start a digital university. It's a good thing to start a digital university at national level, because I also come from Indira Gandhi National Open University. Initially, we started with a national open university, and no doubt we have about 14 open universities. Now the point is, as rightly said by the IIT director, that we have a MOOCs. We have various channels which are catering to mostly one way, we call them online, and we are trying to integrate with and start with online courses. Now the AICT and UGC has brought online regulations. No doubt there are certain restrictions which have been done. Sir, what I'm feeling is, yes, it's a very good beginning to start at a national level, and I hope that there are 14 open universities and one a national open university where these things can be integrated with the this national digital university, so that there is because we are already in online. We are already on distance mode mostly. And for your kind information, Maharashtra, this Open University, we have 73% are from the rural areas, sir. Our 73% students are from rural areas. And fortunately, I think Maharashtra is highly computer literary state because of the various initiatives taken by the Maharashtra government. So what my humble suggestion would be, I think all these open universities, because already in the field of open distance learning, I think, and we have a MOOCs and we have various channels, how to integrate and how to reach the unreached. That is the most important motto you have and we have, same motto. And the best way is that how best as the dream which the Prime Minister, our Honorable Prime Minister was saying, how best we can connect it. So there, my concern is the duplication, sir. That has not to be take place. Duplication, because now the National Education Policy also says that all higher education can start any mode of education, whether conventional, ODL or online. So these also has to be taken care of. And I think we can go start, and more part is training and skilling. Training and skilling is very important, which has to be integrated by this digital university. And because even open universities, we try our best, because there are certain apprehensions about open universities that you cannot have hands-on training, skill-based courses or all that. So these part, I think the digital university can, integrated with the open university system, and I think it can reach the unreached. And really the skilling and the training part, hands-on training, all this aspect can be covered, and the whole part of India and various remote areas or remote parts and all the rural and urban things can be taken care. That is what I feel, sir. And the regulators, because Sastra, this is also that was the one of the regulator, and Jagdish Kumarji, because there are certain apprehension from the state university that regulators are, the most, they should have been a facilitator, but that part is little missing. So these all, if you can take care, I think we can have one of the best digital university in the world, where we can take forward, and the real dreams, whatever we have to think about reaching the unreached, I think can be taken by this digital university. That is what my humble suggestion.
Yeah, thank you, Vayunandanji. Your fears were already allayed by the chairman of UGC that the new regulations which are coming in are going to be very supportive and facilitative. I think let us wait for that to happen as quickly as possible. Fine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
May I request Sri Veguswamy Ramaswamy, who is the global head of TCS ION. I think TCS ION is one of the platforms which came in existence about a decade ago for supporting the entire student, life cycle, right from admission till the examination and about all of that. And may I request Venguswamy to now tell. I think Vayunandanji, you have unshared? Okay. I think I was thinking that it was being shared. So may I request now, Venguswamy, is he there?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Respected Secretary and UGC Chairman, AICT Chairman, and all the other dignitaries, thank you for this opportunity to share some of the thoughts. I just thought I'll take a couple of minutes to put a framework for how digital university can be made as a reality, how it can be brought to the ground. Delighted to hear some of the things that UGC Chairman mentioned in today's call. Look forward to it. Many of those things we have been discussing for the last several months, and it's good to hear some of these changes that is coming up. I believe we can look at very quickly 10 important steps for making this happen, making it as a reality in this country. One, I believe that we have to build a strong education leadership in this country that focus on leading a transformation for digital universities. Many a times, many of these large ideas doesn't go to the ground, primarily because the ability for this country's leadership across various different universities can absorb this. I think we should drive a large change management program for digital universities that can help us drive in each one of the universities that we have today. So that's my first one. Second one of the critical aspects of realizing the digital university is to have a very strong program for professors in various different universities. Teaching digitally versus teaching in person, there are significant set of nuances one has to keep in mind. And hence, we as a country should ensure that there is a significant focus in teachers or professor transformation itself on how to teach in the new world digital university. So that's going to be my second one. The third one is many of these things will depend on a strong, reasonable compute access to the learners. And for this conversation, just imagine that we are running a university in a tier 4 city, and we are dealing with a child or a student who may not have a very strong compute access. So we must make sure, as part of the digital university program, there is a robust distributed infrastructure, whether it is tablets, laptops, or whatever be the case. Access to those physical devices will be very, very critical. We sitting in myself in Bombay may have all the luxury, but when we go to a tier 4 city, many of them may be missing. And it's absolutely great to hear from the DOT secretary on the BharatNet. The fourth one that I would put across is a smooth learning experience will demand a very strong, robust internet bandwidth. Access for the same for both professors as well as the students is going to be critical. I believe the future is going to be a phygital world. Ms. Swati Piramal also mentioned it very clearly as part of her learning on the ground. So we must assume that these universities is going to be phygital. Part of the learning will happen in a physical environment within the campus, and the campus boundaries will fade to a large extent, making the learning even beyond boundaries. So internet capabilities is going to be a fourth important one. The fifth one is developing relevant multimodal digital content based on what Prime Minister's address to the to all of us in the morning, and based on what Ms. Swati Piramal mentioned, I think multimodal digital content, just PDFs and PowerPoint materials may not appeal to today's students. Dynamic digital content, short videos, gamified content, Q&A sessions, all of them is going to be integral part of the content itself. So that's my sixth one. My seventh one is to support synchronous learning programs with a very strong tech enablement. We believe even in the session from IT director, we had a technical glitch. Just imagine this support synchronous learning with tech enablement will make the students participate in real time. This is also important aspect of the pedagogical structure that we should keep in mind. And number 8 is to provide a very strong learning management platform that is secure, user-friendly, that empowers the digital classrooms on the cloud itself. That's going to be very important as well. And the 9th one is to invest in very robust testing and assessment capability, making the student, or rather making the exam go to the student's location instead of students coming to the exam location. So as learning moves online, I think significant amount of university exams has an opportunity to go online as well. And the last one is to nurture the interaction patterns, the pedagogical structures between the professors and the student. And I believe if these 10 things can be incorporated as part of the digital university, we have a very, very large opportunity for us to create something very unique in the world that we all can be very proud of. And those are my initial thoughts. Back to you, Professor.
Thank you, Vengoswamy. It was wonderful, the 10-point agenda as for the digital university, so that we really empower and become world-class, and also provide this education not only to our countrymen, but also to the whole world. Thank you very much. And now let us move on to the Vice Chancellor of Sastra University, Dr. Vyder Subramanian, who is also always innovative, trying to do something new. So let us hear from him about his thoughts on digital university.
Professor, if you're talking, you are on mute.
Yeah, I think he's not visible here, so probably he got dropped down. So let us go ahead and we'll call him back. We have a technical university in Gujarat, which has also been reformative, and a lot of initiatives they have undertaken in the past. So Dr. Naveen Sheth, the present Vice Chancellor of Gujarat Technological University, who have been supporting innovation and entrepreneurship in a big way. How digital university can play a role in all these aspects, May I now request Dr. Naveen Sheth to give his thoughts.
Respected all dignitaries here, Chairman AICT, Anil Sastra, Chairman UGC, all esteemed panelists. So we are here for discussing very important issue, because such a large country, accessibility of a quality higher education is the major problem, and this digital university will play an important role, not only to access to India, but it will be convert the India into a knowledge hub, definitely. So there are so many issues were discussed by the esteemed panelists. There are 2-3 points in my mind. My university is a state university having 500 affiliated colleges, about 5 lakh students enrolled with us. And we have created a very good ecosystem of innovation and startup since the establishment of the university in 2008. And it gives a very good results, definitely. So this digital platform will also play an important role in innovation and startup. We have found during this pandemic time, when everything was locked down, but even though innovation activities continued at my university, and lot of innovation and lot of new product, new design and everything there. So definitely it will, this digital university will play an important role. 2-3 points that definitely we have a large resources available at the different university, the open universities, and particularly in the vernacular language of the local language of the state. This all such open university of the different state will also play an important role. No doubt, definitely the content to be validated, because this digital university it will be a global university. So the that resources to be utilized, and this hub and spoke model is very important. That every university have their own strength and weakness. So we will use the large resources available. But the important thing is here the data security. When we are thinking about the global university or the digital platform, so the data is security is very important. So that part to be looked after. Another thing in my mind that the teachers to be are not aware of particularly the content development. Digital content development is very challenging problem, very most challenging thing. So they are to be handholding a large scale training to the teachers for creating a digital content, quality digital content development is required. Yes, I think, and second thing, to consider the admission, when our panelist has suggested the NIRF and NAC, but I think in NIRF there is no validation of the data. So NAC and NBA to be considered for the selection or the admission in a hub and spoke models. I think these are my few points I suggested. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Professor Naveen Sheth, for that data security aspect which you have brought out, very important. May I now request Dr. Ami Upadhyay, Vice Chancellor of Baba Saheb Ambedkar Open University, another open university which has got experience of distance education, how she thinks about digital university and how we should go ahead with that. Madam Ami Upadhyay, please.
Honorable Professor, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Honorable Sastra Ji, Jagdish Kumar Ji, Kamakoti Ji, Swati Ji, respected Sanjay Murthy Ji, and the experts from various fields. I would not say much about my university, but I would say that yes, we have created miracles at a university very satisfactorily. Now, a few points I would like to draw attention towards with my experience. Sanjay Murthy mentioned about GER, about tribal GER. I would say that in open and distance learning, online learning, there is a system which talks about recognizing prior learning, RPL. Here at Gujarat, we have introduced it very successfully. In tribal belt, Dang, Ahwa, Chota Udaipur, Narmada, they have their own skills, literature, language, lot of things. So what we have done is their own indigenous local knowledge we have converted into such a portion of credits that has encouraged them to participate very actively in education. So this recognizing prior learning can be introduced. Second thing, sir, recognizing prior learning. There are people who have huge training, knowledge, everything, but they do not have certification or degree. So whatever syllabus of graduation, certificate or diploma is there, directly the exams can be conducted to evaluate their knowledge, and examination and certificate as recognizing prior learning, not having the training period. Kamakoti ji also related to GER mentioned about various levels of dropout ratios. Sir, I have researched of last 5-7 years and I've observed that dropout ratio, when we talk about gross enrollment ratio, these all points are very important in digital university. That's why I'm connecting it to digital university. Dropout ratio is not exactly at higher education level. It is more at school level. So eligible enrollment ratio is greater problem than gross enrollment ratio. So in that case, to have better results in gross enrollment ratio, I feel open schooling should be introduced and very actively encouraged. If every state, Gujarat State Open Schooling, as we have National Institute of Open Schooling, Gujarat State Open Schooling, Rajasthan Open Schooling. So at school level, if gross enrollment ratio goes higher level, that would help at higher education. As Vayunandanji mentioned, 14 state open university plus 2 more open university, that's from Punjab and Kerala. So now in India, we have 16 open state open universities. When it comes to identifying programs, to educate matters a lot. So I feel we should have, unfortunately, as you know, somewhere as an open distance learning institutes, we have faced certain problems. We are very happy that Jagdeshji has ensured us for flexibility and open-mindedness, which is really required in open learning, digital learning. Skill training or performing arts, because I'm a classical dancer and choreographer also. So somewhere at UGC, skill training or performing arts training, they are not much appreciated through open distance learning. When it comes to digital university across globe today, all these subjects are very beautifully, wonderfully with result oriented. They are taught or digital through digital mode or open distance learning. So I think that should be a part of it. Special program program for special purpose and special groups. For example, at Gujarat, we have introduced courses and programs for sarpanch. We have introduced for mayors. We have introduced for leaders. We have introduced for artists. We have introduced for art critics. No, there are so many certain courses, various kinds of courses across globe by techno science and innovations, the language of art and culture, geophilosophy, and the new ontologies. I think such offbeat courses should be encouraged because learners across India many times look at the universities out of India for this kind of offbeat courses. I think that should be encouraged. I would suggest that experts not only from academics, but experts from the various fields, they have proven themselves on field work. They should be more encouraged, I feel, somewhere. And that would surely bring better results also. Uh, when it comes to indigenous knowledge and everything, I feel even in SWAM portal also we tried with 9 other languages. But that particular, if Gujarati content is to be prepared in Gujarati, that should go to Gujarati people. If it is for Marathi, then it should go to Maharashtrian. So in that way, the correct flavor will come. So I feel NEP 2020 also talks about regional language or teaching learning in regional language. If sir, somewhere like Swayam, if every state has its own indigenous platform to prepare, where there would be program advisory committee that would evaluate the program, the content review, and after the final it is getting ready, it will go to the National Digital University. So like Swayam, if every state has its own indigenous Swayam platform where local indigenous regional knowledge would get platform, and all the possible at in the coming days, I'm sure, I'm convinced about it, that know your culture. People across globe would be interested to know about the culture of India. So all the possible, all the states, the varieties of languages, those things can be put into it. After that, I would say that when it comes to identifying hubs, somewhere as Swatiji suggested, that we should have more digital labs. So wherever, for example, as an open university, we have 267 learner support centers across Gujarat. So we have in prisons also, we have in panchayats also, we have in the red light areas also. So if we can make digital university to have the centers across India, all the possible, accessibility would be comparatively higher. With that, I would say one more thing. Just a minute. Yes, when matter comes to launching of program or introducing certain programs, I feel cutting across like choice-based credit system, if courses are offered in such a way where there are more possibilities of growth and understanding and development, that would add something more to the education system. And I'm sure that digital university would really create wonders in India. I'm very excited and very happy about it. And I'm sure that all open universities would be very happy to contribute to it. Thank you very much, sir. It was really a pleasure to share my views.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ami Upadhyay. You raised some very valid and important points about not only formal education, which we talk about, how prior learning can be taken care of by the digital university, how some of the offbeat courses can be launched, for various segments of the society, which is the most important thing, which probably cannot happen in the ODL mode, can happen also in the online mode. So I think that's very important intervention that you did. Now, let us move on, and may I request now Dr. Govindan Rangarajan, Director of Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, which is a #1 university in NIRF ranking, and some of the courses in online, they have already started. So I think his experience and his thoughts on digital university. Dr. Rangarajan, please.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I think we are already, into the lunchtime. So basically, I would like to highlight one aspect. Others have already talked about various aspects of the digital university. One aspect where considerable innovation would be required would be in online laboratories. So that I think is one area where a lot of research needs to be done in areas like computer science, etc. It may be okay, but in biology and other experimental lab focused areas, how do you deliver a lab experience online to the students is of great concern, especially to institutions like us. So that's where you may require new ways of thinking about it, where AR, VR, all these technologies obviously will come into play. Because other modes, as far as instruction is concerned, there are many good solutions, and probably what you may require is tweaking here and there to make them more suitable for a given condition. But lab instruction practicals, that I think there is still a lot of work to do, and therefore I would urge, maybe this is an area where there can be a considerable public-private partnership where private players can come up with solutions. And this is what would be the point that I would urge everyone to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rangarajan. I will come back to you because you raised an important topic of how online labs have to be created, which is certainly a challenge. We do have virtual labs, simulation-based experiments, but nevertheless, actual experiment is actual experiment, and how do we get it live actually is certainly going to be a challenge. But more important, also digital university to give research degrees. How research can be done also is an important thing. And IISc being a research university, I would come back to you a little later again on this front. So right now we have next person, Dr. Krishna Devarao, Vice Chancellor of National Law University in Delhi, because there are regulations which we are talking about. Therefore, it is very important to get the perspective of law as well as how law can be delivered as a course or a program. I think may I request now Dr. Krishna Devarao to deliver his talk.
Thank you, Anilji. Distinguished panelists and friends, we all are visualizing today's higher education, the paradigm shift, how it has become interdisciplinary, interprofessional, and international. I think that's where several panelists have mentioned about how the partnership and collaboration within these panel of we have seen IIT, IISc, BITS Pilani, and the open universities and law universities and others should come together and think about innovative, interdisciplinary, interprofessional, and international programs have to be developed. American Association of Law Schools 5 years ago have visualized how the legal education transformation is going to take up in the United States and all over the world. What they have said is next legal education international level will have law, technology, trade, finance, accountancy. In our interactions, they have said now the legal profession has to change, law firms have to change, industry which is involved in law has to change. I think that's what I thought this is the right time. We are all meeting. We should, one sees whatever we have done, all this at one place is one method of a digital universities. Every one of us we have developed, we can give in, we can again contextualize, but for me is how we all can come together and develop interdisciplinary. I'll give an example. When we are developing a digital forensic course, we collaborated with the Melbourne University in Australia. It's ready. We are about to launch through Future Learn. So similarly, there are several things how we could think about these future interdisciplinary in law for me is very important because that will change the entire legal discourse in the coming years. That's the first one. Second is mode of ICT and formats for delivery. Blended university already we have seen. Maybe earlier we are thinking about physical infrastructure. Now we need, as some of the panelists have, intellectual infrastructure is important. More than about two more infrastructures are important. Digital infrastructure. Each university which will partner in this should have their own LMS, quality LMS. Second, financial infrastructure is very important. So blended university, I think it will give. I have also an experience of working with the Indira Gandhi National Open University for 3 years. Some way back ago, we offered a intellectual property course, master's program with an Australian university sometime in 2007 and 8. And the other one I wanted to mention about the mode of delivery is I have discussed with my colleagues. My colleagues have suggested a 6 quadrant approach. What is the 6 quadrant approach? They said text is the first one. Second is videos and animation. Third is learning more self-check brain teasers. Fourth is practical and contact classes, guest lecture. Fifth is examination and grading. Sixth is internships and externship. Particularly there, the industry. For a law, it is the law firm's participation. Industry which is involved in law, if they can give, more number of students will come, the quality of instruction learning which will be much more. And then in this context, the common platform may be useful. I think Professor Jagdish mentioned about this. Maybe we should think about a common entrance exam, common admission process, common digital learning, examination, grading, common certification system, at the same time in that university, diversity, autonomy of individual university. Vayunandan has mentioned about we should have our own autonomy, and maybe we should think about how the financial resource sharing has to develop when large number of students from India and abroad will come. Third issue is about content generation, English, Hindi, and Indian language is very important, particularly in law. We know it really not believes in simplification, but much more problematization. Identifying the hubs, we would be happy and delighted to be a law hub, and we will also bring in several other law schools and those who have already been involved in development of the online content. Governance and regulation, lastly, I'll close with it. I think common all India maybe entrance test or other, common annual academic calendar may be useful, and there should be a supervisory control by the centralized digital university. We have already started partnering with the Association of Commonwealth Universities. 10 universities we are in the process of developing virtual content, international level. Another one, my colleagues are involved in the women's sustainable development in 7 countries. And we should also bring in European Union, which has the major program in higher education support for higher education institution Asian region. We can learn from there how their experience or mistakes and other. I thought I'll share some of these, and NLU Delhi would be really glad and delighted to partner this. We thank for giving us this opportunity to work with you in future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Krishnadev Rao, for that important intervention where you raised some very important points. We were talking about our SWAYAM with 4 quadrants. Lecture or video or text, whatever, PDF files, additional reading material, examination, and blogging, in terms of discussion forum. But you have brought 2 other aspects, that is internship. In a different context, already online internships have become the order of the day. Work from home culture has started in industry, and same way, we have an internship, which earlier we used to send students physically to the industry. Because of COVID crisis, it has already become internship as an online internship. But very important thing which you said is about brain teasers, so that students are keeping themselves active, understanding that, and many other governance, regulations, common academic calendar, Indian languages, the importance of that. Thank you very much for that. And maybe we will come back to you when our regulations are ready, whether they are foolproof, that's important. So you are a very important resource for us anyway. So let us move ahead. The next person is Dr. Vk Jain, Vice Chancellor of Tezpur University. This is one of the universities in the Northeast, a very remote university, and the perspective of how digital university or digital education can empower people from remote areas, especially the Northeast, is very significant and important. Let us have his views on this subject. Dr. Vk Jain, please.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Sastra Buddhe. Honorable Secretary Higher Education, Shri Sanjay Murthy Sahab, Additional Secretary Dr. Vinit Joshi ji, eminent panelists. I have just few suggestions with regard to, first, with regard to the academic programs which the digital university could offer. Drawing upon the experience of IIT Madras, wherein they are actually offering online BSc course, perhaps digital university could start offering this 4-year holistic bachelor's degree academic programs. And to begin with, to my mind, the first program which comes is the liberal arts program. Of course, some programs in data science or artificial intelligence, etc., they could be offered. But first, we have to actually start by having the academic architecture of these programs at UG level. And there are certainly some programs which are doable. The second point I have in mind is that as far as the other very important role which the digital university can discharge, it is in terms of being a single point nodal center for the country to offer the set of courses which are to do with common skill sets. Because if the NHEQF or MEEP in conjunction with the Academic Bank of Credit, if it has to serve the purpose for which, in the NEP, the entire curriculum revision is to be sought. And if you look at the academic architecture now, 40% of the curricula has to have the skill-based component. Now, there will be some skill sets which will be of common nature across all academic programs, be they in the sciences or engineering or in the humanities and social sciences. There will be some discipline-specific skill components, and then there will be some industry-specific skill component. As far as the industry-specific skill components are concerned, certainly NSD could be, the help could be sought from NSDC to identify the skill-based courses, which could be the priority for the digital university in terms of developing their course content. But my suggestion would be, can there be a set of courses which could be offered across the country to any HEI? These set of courses will be of common nature. So that is the point number 2. The third point I have is to do with the IKS, that Indian Knowledge System. So if we have courses designed in the, for offering in the online mode, I'm sure the Indian Knowledge System courses could be offered across the board in the entire country. So this is another suggestion I have, sir. Just alluding to what Professor Jagdish Kumar said, the Honorable UGC Chairman made, with regard to the admission. The whole idea behind this digital university, as was mentioned by the Honorable Prime Minister also, and later on by Honorable Secretary of Higher Education. If we have to increase the GER, certainly we have to do away with this percentage required for the admission process. And here I would like to suggest that in the NHEQF, there are already levels defined. The levels define level 5 or level 6, like level 4, level 5, level 6, level 7, level 8. So as long as a person has level 6 or level 7 qualification or level 8 qualification, that person can get direct entry either in the undergraduate in the first year or in the second year, depending on what level of the qualification that person has. And so that will take care of this requirement or doing away with the requirement of the percentages. So this is another suggestion I have, sir. And with regard to some of the infrastructure which is lacking as far as the virtual labs, etc., are concerned, or simulation labs are concerned, I would submit, sir, this role could also be entrusted with the digital university. The digital university could be a single, nodal center where they could host all kinds of virtual labs for the use of the entire. Another point which was also which I have in mind is to do with what Madam Swati Piramal Madam mentioned, that in order that digital mode of education, if it meets the desired, the quality standards, I think it's important that some contact hours are also are there. And it is in this context, I think before me, a few other eminent participants have also alluded to this, that we could make use of the study centers of IGNOU as well as the Open University. These centers have been identified by various open universities and IGNOU, and there is a reasonable infrastructure available already there. If we could strengthen those centers in terms of the digital connectivity, etc., I think they could serve that useful purpose, of having some, contact hours also at those centers. So I think this is all I have to say, sir, at this moment. And thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vk Jain, for important initiative of how we can bring in skills and skill sector into the digital university. Very important aspect. You also talked about how virtual labs have to be in one place, but there is already a virtual lab platform, and anyway, digital university can certainly make use of it. And NSQF, lateral entry, vertical mobility, all of that under National Higher Education Qualification Framework being worked out. IKS being given more importance, I think very valid points. Now we are coming almost to the last panelist or expert. I was counting the numbers, and Vyder Subramanian, because of some reason, was not able to join. And therefore, Ronnie Screwwala is the 11th player. You know, in a cricket team, the last man scores the final victory. You know, that's what is happening. So, chairperson of Upgrad, may I invite him to give his perspective from the industry sector, especially edutech sector, as to what are their expectations and how we can collaborate, meet, and then work together for what is the vision of the Prime Minister.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. Honorable Secretary, Honorable Joint Secretary, Chairman UGC, Chairman AICTE, Vice Chancellors, Professors, Mr. Ramaswamy and Swati. So as you alluded, in my school days and in my college days, I was always a backbencher. And I think I know why, because normally when you're a backbencher and you come last, you can observe so many different things, so many words of wisdom, and you can almost figure out how to take that away. And I think today it's been nothing short of an inspiration. I think what started off with the Prime Minister was almost like a proclamation. Many years back, he proclaimed on the Startup India. And I think in those 4 or 5 years in which since we had that mantra, the nation really has become a much more entrepreneurial nation and feels liberated. Today, I think is a very good, strong point where the proclamation of saying, and basically I read the Prime Minister to say that we can be the knowledge capital, we can be the teaching capital of the world. So to me, I think inspiration is a phenomenal way to start. What he said then is, let's put some timelines, let's put some goalposts and go forward. So I definitely feel inspired. I think UGC Chairman, Sir, Mr. Kumar, you've already talked about some sweeping changes. This is the right approach and mindset that I think we'd all feel liberated with and excited about, and we want to thank you for that. If India is going to be the 3rd largest economy in the 4th industrial revolution, I think information technology in the IT sector carried us incredibly with the arbitrage economy. But today, if we want to be known for innovation, if we want to be known for knowledge, then education overall, digital and edtech is really going to make the sweeping changes that can actually also catapult India as we go forward. So I feel that we should be carrying a heavy burden with this agenda and what we want to do. If you look at digital here in India, we are actually in the spotlight for anywhere in the world. We are one of the largest mobile and telephony countries. From a payment gateway to almost anything in the digital environment, all the global largest companies who almost their market cap represents what I would say almost the GDP of nations, they all look today to India as one of their largest breakthrough markets. So again, I think it is an incredible opportunity that when we're looking at a digital university, we really look at it with that ambition and with that scale. Careers tomorrow and today are being transformed forever. We didn't have the conventional ones. And I think today, when we're looking at the ambition of the digital university, we need to look at it from the learner's point of view, the employer's point of view. We are all looking at changing mindsets, but I think employers need to change their mindset. So we will have to carry the ecosystem of the job market as much as we talk about the input, which is the learning market from our point of view. And I think today in India, aspirations, ambitions, and career changes is something we should take into account when we're building the framework of our digital university. Normally, when people look at online and digital, we always think of it as slightly anonymous. The reason we could go to college is there's proximity, you meet people, there's human contact, you can't drop out, it's high profile. Actually, digital, we have to find a way to make it as not anonymous as it is in the physical world. And I think that is also something that technology can prevail for. Lastly, I'd like to just submit, as someone that I've heard so much of us being speaking here, about what I would consider could be the pillars of the digital learning and the digital university. I'm calling them the 5 Cs. And we all look at technology as the forefront. I think technology is an enabler. There are many other aspects and pillars. So the 5 Cs I would like to summarize is 1, content. And we think of content as just video. But I think Mr. Ramaswamy mentioned about it being much more engaging. The entire element of content is a 360-degree approach when you're looking at learning, pedagogy, how to make it much more engaging and enthralling to our learners, because finally that's your captive. The best memories we have is the professors who have been the most engaging to us in our learning curriculum. So how do we create content which is 360-degree approach? Second, collaboration. I think we started off with the process, and Mr. Kumar, you articulated that we should avoid duplication. It is the era where collaboration is going to make an incredible amount of difference. And I think not just with faculty and professors, but the industry in large, all of us are teachers. All of us would like to participate in something like this. We don't find the time, but if we know that it is digital and we can engage with it, imagine the number of faculty and imagine the entire talent pool that we could engage with, and therefore the collaborativeness at all files. Third, completion. I know many of you all referred to the fact that completion records. We take it for granted in the offline world, but I think in the online world, it is going to be very significant that completion is a KRA and a mechanism by which we track that. Fourth, learning in the digital world can be quite lonely, and therefore an ecosystem of coaching and mentoring, all digital, is a very important part of completing this entire process. And fifth, but the most important, is the career outcomes. How will the success of ours as a digital university be gauged if it isn't for the fact of what are the outcomes of the learners, the career outcomes that we would like to do? So I would just, in summary, like to submit these 5 that I think could be strong pillars, foundations for what we all want to build here. We've learned a lot at Upgrad and in the technology space, in the learning space, the interactive space, which we obviously like to share and be a constant and be available for that. 2 small points. Soft skills. It's a personal strong, I'm a product of soft skills. We all look at learning as a hard skill approach. The beauty of a digital university is for all of us to be rounded learners, soft skills completes 50% of almost everything we want to do. What is the use of only knowledge if I can't be able to communicate it, if I can't win a job interview, if I can't participate in the conference room, if I can't be the next level of innovation? And soft skills is something that we need to embed into the element of what we want to look at for our digital university. Thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Ronnie. Although you are from the backbench, you have come to the front line. Well, some of the issues which you have raised are very important in terms of content. Prime Minister also talked about engaging content. You said 360-degree content, whether it is AR, VR, gamification, toys, all of that, how we can make students to be engaged and actively involved in learning. You talked about loneliness in the online mode, and that's very important. And during COVID, we have found many universities having trouble, actually. Many of them were driven to very great problems, actually. And therefore, coaching and mentoring is a very significant thing in this online. And as far as career outcomes are concerned, we should not suggest that, this is what you are going to do. It is learner specific. Each learner is autonomous, independent. What he wants to learn, he should decide or she should decide. And that is what the digital university can play a big role. I think thank you very much, all the panelists and experts who intervened in this particular webinar. Now I have a couple of questions to ask to some of the people so that we get more information. And finally, I will request the chair of the session, Sri Sanjay Murthy, to sum up this. So hold on for some more time. I know you are all hungry. you're all waiting for lunch, but we'll hold for another couple of minutes, at 5-10 minutes at least. I had said to Dr. Govindan Rangarajan about research is very important. When we say university, university is a universal one where one is multidisciplinarity is involved. The second one is it has to conduct research. So how in an ODL or online mode research can be done, how we can collaborate is a very important aspect of a digital university. Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, I think, again, I will come back to the same issue. I think theoretical research to a great extent, because now we are so used to collaborating with people from abroad on theoretical subjects, that still can happen on the online world. But it is the experimental areas, I think, which will necessarily, suffer, because at least, if you have just teaching modules for labs, they can be standardized and something can be done. So what we need to do is to go into this mode, which has been done at least for telescopes and big research equipment like those, where you can remotely, conduct the experiment. So you need to have central experimental facilities, research facilities, which are set up for the whole nation. And then you have, which can be remotely controlled by, researchers. And, when you have, for example, maybe some samples to be tested, which have to be, of course, physically transported, then it is couriered to that national facility, and then some technician there puts the sample into the equipment and gets it tested and sends out the results. So I think we have to come up with these sort of solutions. And I would strongly urge that India, now is the time that India sets up a national research facility which has, tens of microscopes, tens of whatever, NMR, whatever you have. That's something which is always lacking in India, that we don't have such. And now that can be then combined with these ODL and research in particular, so that you can even probably conduct PhD, programs online. I think that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Doctor, Vaidya is not able to join, therefore I will shift the question to someone else. We have Ronnie about skilling. You talked about skilling, and as far as soft skills are concerned, it's much easier. But when it comes to hard skills, where a lot of experimental skills have to be achieved, maybe welding, maybe you have to do some work on robotics or drones, how digital university can play a role in skilling, and how edutech companies can bring in value in terms of what you rightly said earlier about the gamification through which students can try on their own something and then come out. Can you throw some light on that?
Sure. I think right now the word metaverse and meta-universe is something that's been bandied around. For all of us, we feel, again, it's 5 years away and 10 years away. But things we thought 2 years away was going to be 10 years away have now arrived. I think that while it is challenging in things like laboratories and in things like skilling and in drilling and definitely in nursing and medical, the meta-universe and the ability for you to be able to bring that into a world where you can actually be in a virtual classroom and being able to do that is something for the future that will come about. Today, I think it is still challenging. When you're looking at practicals and many of the aspects that need to convert to real life, it is not going to be that easy. But I think the world has also moved blended in a very good way. So you can have a blended approach where you can have 10% of what you want to do, while the balance 90%. There is so much even in that can actually be taken digitally till something in the metaverse or in the actual virtual space comes about. I think we're still far away, but today the luxury of planning a digital university is we can write the script for the next 10 years and try to see how to make it in 3 years instead of trying to ride the storm and make it for the next 10 years. That will make us 3 steps ahead of almost anyone in the Western world designing and thinking exactly like we're thinking right now.
Yeah, thank you, Ronnie. Mr. Venkatswamy.
Chairman, sir.
Yes.
Chairman, sir, can I add one word to the research component that you mentioned?
Yeah, sure.
What Dr. Rangarajan has said, Professor Rangarajan, you see in many of the areas such as social sciences, research can be done through online means. And there are other areas like even computational biology, which is mostly based on computation and publicly available databases. Research can be done. But when it comes to experimental work, what Dr. Rangarajan has said, if a sample can be sent and testing can be done by a local technician and the results can be sent back, we have already started building such facilities in the country. One of the examples many of you may not know is the sophisticated analytical and technical help institutes at IIT Delhi. It is called SATI, where advanced instrumentation facilities are available, and outsiders can make use of these facilities to do all kinds of testing. And similarly, in many of the other advanced institutes, such as, at JNU, we have advanced instrumentation research facility where a lot of people from outside, across the country, they get their sample tested. I think if we can build many more such facilities, even experimental work can be done by teachers from ordinary degree colleges. And that is where we need to strengthen at the bottom of the pyramid the research efforts by college teachers so that they can enhance their own teaching in the classroom. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for that intervention. And there are many institutions who have this central instrumentation facility. They support samples being received and then give the test results. I think research can be conducted in that manner. Very important intervention. Venguswamiji, I have one question. Many times people have this doubt whether a student who has graduated from a regular university in a brick and mortar and a person who has come from ODL or online university or a digital university in the future, will the industry take them on the same face value? And this is a doubt which many students keep asking. So I think the industry perspective on this must be told.
I want to be brutally honest. Today, the answer is when someone comes from non-physical mode-based learning, the industry looks at it with a colored lens. That is true for sure, right? But that's changing dramatically. And we also need to accept that the earlier, the quality of such students who did not go through a campus education has always been a suspect. But things have changed dramatically with technology playing a very critical role, and Ronnie talked about some of these things today and as well as in the future. Things are dramatically changing. I believe that future industry will predominantly hire based on skills, irrespective of the mode in which the education has happened. And that is the approach many of the top corporates, both in India as well as outside, are going towards.
Yeah, thank you, Ji. One more issue is about the IIT Madras program on AI data science, BSc, which they have already been running. 12,000 plus students have come through. So what is your experience of their learning? That is directly related with what Venguswamy was saying, the perception change. When a degree has come from an institute like IIT, there is always a value associated, not by some other university at some place here and there. And that's why that experience is going to be very vital and important. Will Dr. Kamakoti tell a couple of sentences on that? Is it there?
Hello?
Hello.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes,
sorry.
you are audible. Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah. So the experience has been quite fruitful. We had actually understood certain access barriers in a very much more clear way. And we were able to basically address these access barriers. For example, one is that we are now trying to get certain local chapters which can bring these people together. So that can become a sort of a very interesting thing in the digital university also. The colleges can get affiliated to a digital university. It can admit students to the online program, or it can provide local support for the enrolled students. So this chapter, local chapter, is actually becoming quite good. And we are also trying to organize what we call as interaction with the with government school students, etc., to basically get them understand what is this degree, and since it is a qualifying examination rather than a it's just a qualifying examination rather than a selection examination. We are able to basically go and reach to them and say, this is what you need to prepare, and give them the encouragement to join. So this also will be quite useful when we are talking of this GER. I think this is a big gap that we can fill. And the next thing is about scale. Of course, we are now reaching up to 12,000, and that essentially puts all the sophisticated infrastructure that are needed. And the last one specifically is about the laboratory work. And since this is a data science course, we are able to provide them compute facilities with which they can work remotely. They need not come in into a particular place or into a facility. So these are all some of the interesting things that we got out of this whole effort. And the challenge would be now to scale from, say, this 12,000 to 50,000. And I think that is where we will really feel the, we will learn many more things. And that is where we are also heavily dependent upon the pipe, which DOT Secretary did mention. So we need the connectivity, and that is going to be extremely crucial.
Dr. Swati, if you are still there, a small question to you. See, you have intruded into nooks and corners in villages for giving them primary education as well as some other higher education also. But can it lead to not only employability, but creating entrepreneurs from out of those places? That's important. That is where true India as an economic power will emerge. So are there any thoughts on that? Otherwise, Professor Seth, you have been running a lot of programs on entrepreneurship.
Anilji, can I just intervene and ask you for some 2 questions that I require some opinions on?
Yeah.
The Honorable Prime Minister had alluded to ensure that we have a strong, action plan to ensure that we implement this in the shortest possible time after this due consultation. So if something can be alluded to that, I think you will be able to capture it in your presentation. The second point that was also required a little more of elaboration was on the change management capacity building. We have seen 3 panelists talk about that. Where would be the action plan for that also needs to be articulated. It would be good such that we are sure that we need to work on that line. The third aspect was on regulation, and Chairman UGC has very clearly articulated the roadmap for that. But in these 2 points, the timelines for implementation of this digital university and the associated change management that needs to come, I think if we could have some clarity on that, it would serve us very well. And the third point was pertaining to the acceptance, and the industry's perspective has come about the equivalence of an online course vis-a-vis of one which is done physically. I think while this perception will change as we go along, I think there is a lot of introspection that we in the academia and the regulatory body itself has to do to see that we are party and a role to play in changing that perception. So how do we do that? If something could be mentioned on that, would be greatly beneficial. Thank you, Anilji.
Thank you very much for those important questions. We need to address them, otherwise this whole session is not going to be useful.
May I pitch in for the first question, sir?
Yeah, anyway, yes.
Yeah, I just had one slide, last slide. Can you just put it? Last one. Just go to the last. Yeah, just go to slideshow mode. Yeah. So when we talk of a digital university, I think there are 4 aspects. One thing is the Swayam portal itself. Today, we find this is almost analogous to a DUSIS because we have multiple consortia institutions that are onboarded, and we also do a careful monitoring. We have a good backend which actually does quite a bit of data processing on this. And the NPTEL experience, we have around 80% of enrollments and 95% of exam registrations. We have 1,200 courses and 40 lakh enrollments, 6 lakh exams every year. And this is also that we do currently jointly with TCS ION. The third aspect is we are running the online degree. We have the experience of putting out 12,000 plus students. And all of the above are run in-house and developed indigenously. So this I feel is very interesting. So given an opportunity, IIT Madras is ready to play a leading role in the creating and running of the digital university systems. So this was my last slide, and due to a glitch I couldn't. So so we can so with the experience that we have, we strongly believe that if the regulations are put in place, if a digital university system could be established, we can start this anywhere within 6 to 8 months. Thank you very much.
If I can just add on the Honorable Secretary's points of view of saying what is the action plan, just two things I think that can work concurrently here. One, if there is a PPP approach and a collaborative approach, then identify collaborators fast and quick over a period of the next 30 days and see how each one can set out their own ambitions and timelines. And second, I think concurrently is to really start on a fast track on training, because I think for a digital university, just the overall environment of everybody who's going to participate in that, concurrent training to start off even now while the rest of the building blocks are being made out, I think would be two of my suggestions to work as part of the whole itinerary of how we want to proceed with this.
Chairman, sir, may I say a couple of words?
Yeah, sure.
The 3 points that you have, the Secretary has raised. I think there should be some public-private partnership while we are running this digital university, because there is enough maturity in the industry to provide the technology support for such a university. And I believe that it should be a kind of collaborative effort, perhaps by multiple institutions, by appropriately designing the governance model for this university. And thirdly, a recent report says that nearly 69% of the companies are now looking for the skill set that the candidates have rather than the kind of degree that they have. So therefore, this digital university can actually play a significant role in providing appropriate skill set, so that those who pass out from the digital university are immediately employable and meet the needs of the industries. So if such is the case, then I'm sure the industry will respond very positively to those who get educated in the digital university. Thank you, sir.
I think we have to make one action plan, time bound, and 15th August to be a target. Before that, it is launched on 15th August this year. So there is a 6-month period. So before that, the structure, the so many other things to be there. But I think that type of the timeline will be targeted work. It will be, I think, then every machinery will work for that to achieve the target. Thank you, sir.
One suggestion I would like to share, if NLU Delhi would like to partner with any technology university to develop a 4 years Bachelor of Law and Technology interdisciplinary course with a 1-year industry. So if that could be, we would be happy to work and bring in both national universities and international. This is where the future direction of the law and technology. The Supreme Court E-Committee is also working in this direction. We would be happy. This is idea I wanted to suggest, that law and technology which has to come, where we should think about creating a new interdisciplinary courses, interprofessional courses, international courses. Thank you.
Is there anyone else having any thought on this?
Yeah, Professor Sahasbuddhe, may I just make one submission? You see, at the moment, the pool of courses we have on SWAM platform, can we, do an exercise of, selecting the courses to suit a particular academic program? Put all of them together, a kind of, a bouquet kind of thing, pertaining or conforming to the credit requirement for a particular degree program. So do we have the contents already available with us? That is something that exercise can be done. And one of the things, I may stand corrected, one of the things which is required is, and since some of the universities do face that problem, that some of the SWAM courses do not have the credits assigned to them. The number of hours is assigned, but many a times we find that when we suggest the registration for these SWAM courses for our students, then this question of whether it should be for it should be for 2 credits or 3 credits is left to the individual higher educational institutions. So this exercise also, if it could be carried out, that all those courses which are on the SWAM platform or NPTEL or whichever online, whatever online content is available right now, can we assign the credits and then identify the set of courses which could, in the immediate future, these courses could be part of the credit requirement for a particular academic program, sir.
Well, Professor Jain, actually, most of the courses do have the number of credits, but unfortunately, different universities and different institutions follow different norms for credit, and that's why there is a challenge. The UGC committee has already given recommendations about how to count credits. Actually, based on all of that, probably this exchange of credits and academic bank of credits will enable universities to adopt, make use of credits done even in other universities, forget about from the SWAM platform itself. So all of those enablements are possible. I think let us wait for some of the regulations to come out.
But Professor Jain's suggestion is very important, because when the digital university comes into existence, when SWAM becomes part of it, I think some of these issues, if they are there, we will definitely address them.
Yeah. So there are not many things. I think I will pitch in for 1 or 2 minutes for telling about few of these issues, and then maybe chairman of the session will speak for about 5 minutes about concluding the remarks. Sir, actually, digital university, one question which is still there is, will there be only one single university, or will there be a regulation and many people can apply and can have multiple digital universities from India? This is one question which we have to address. Secondly, whether it is one or multiple, change management has been found to be most important, and therefore we must, in all right earnest, immediately start educating our faculty members, leaders, so that they get adapted to the new changes that are happening. As far as equivalence is concerned, that is again change management, attitudinal change which is required amongst our leaders. And regulations, of course, UGC will have to bring it as fast as possible. And as Dr. Shade said, we must have a 1-year timeline, maybe 6 months timeline, maybe a committee be set up by the ministry, which will give clear directions about how to go about based on all the inputs that we have received today, and then make digital university happen within the next 7-8 months. Thank you. Over to you, Chairman Sir.
Thank you, Anilji. I mean, grateful for your summary here. I don't think I will take more time. I think we've exceeded the time limit, and I think we need to ensure that you also get some time to consolidate the presentation that you have to give at 3:30 p.m. today. But I think it's been a wonderful exercise wherein we have seen diverse suggestions come in. I mean, I wouldn't like to repeat all of them, but the takeaway is that we've got a deadline also. I think 15th August has been a timeline that has been set, and I think we will work backwards towards addressing this. So the implementation time that we both will discuss before presenting at 3:30 will capture this time frame for us. And the other important thing is the sense of the group is to ensure that there is a proper PPP model for this digital university. So I think we should keep that as a foundation towards taking this forward, and how we can onboard more partners and collaboratively work, I think is the essence that has come out. And I thank each of the participants and panelists for sparing their time to share their thoughts and vision with us. And I'm sure we'll all work together to ensure we realize the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister to ensure that quality education is reached to the remotest location of ours and to all the people on an equal footing. Thank you so much once again for joining in. Thank you, and look forward to meeting you again at 3:30. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Yes.